Hi. Hello. I just ate some couscous with chili and other things. Chili, pickled onions. No, cucumbers. Gherkins. And yeah, so it cleared my throat a little. So people that speak with a raspy voice are generally just trying to appear older. Right? If I'd hear you speak with a raspy voice, I mean, there's a difference between talking with a deep and rich voice and speaking with a raspy voice. If you'd have a raspy voice, I'd probably give you a lot of chili and get you to hike, and then your raspy voice would be gone. So, right, you don't want to have a raspy voice, because what raspy voices say is, I never spoke my truth. I'm actually quite sad. Okay, this is supposed to be the introduction to Try Darkness with Direction. Why am I saying that? I know, in front of my mind there's this image of wrecking ball. I came in like a wrecking ball, everybody.
Yeah, why? How can she do that? Why does she do that?
Well, because she had bad advice. Because people wanted to make lots of money with her. So Try Darkness, yeah. They are harvesting somebody's inner child. And they don't care. Like, her parents sold her to Disney at a young age. Like, they allowed that to happen. So yeah, look at Justin Bieber. I mean, they're extracting him. And who's they? Okay, sorry. Try Darkness. Okay? Try Darkness. Yeah, that's it. I just wanted to say something about how this video has been made, just for anyone who wants to recreate things. So I just started filming on my way back home, which I walked through the forest. I had no torch. Well, I did have my phone, but I didn't use it. And then I simply hiked in bare feet with my camera, and I started where there was still street lights, which is why the beginning and the end are different than the intermediates, like the middle part. Yeah, drop the like, I'm still trying it. So much for stuff you pick up from other people. You have to observe yourself. So yeah, you walk, I walked. You walk, I walk. You take the camera. You film the road, not yourself. And then you walk at night. And there may be street lights. And then maybe I don't know where you live. Right? I don't know where you live. You could be living anywhere. You could live in wherever. Could be dangerous, right? You could live in Johannesburg. Or you could live in, a really calm environment, like I kind of do. But in a sense, it's all spiritual, so you are self-responsible. So if I say try darkness, then try it, but make sure you're safe, because you're responsible for your life, right? If you're old enough to watch this, then you're responsible for for your life. I hiked barefoot through the darkness, and in this area here there seem to be no large predators anymore. I have heard there may be wolves, but who's to say? Anyway, so I kept walking through the darkness, and I simply filmed. And it was almost the full moon night, but not really. It was 2 days before, I believe, or 1 day. And then I brought it onto the computer, and I first started working. So I have 2 video tracks on top of each other, and I applied filters such as the Bezier curves or effects, right? I don't know, because GIMP has filters or effects, and then Audacity has filters or effects, and then Kdenlive has filters or effects. To me, it's the same thing. Who cares? It's a filter, it's an effect, it does something. And then you also got the mods or the modi, right? Or the compositions or something, which means you put 2 tracks over each other, and then you add this composition thing, or however it's called, this purple line in between, and then you fiddle around with that, right? So that both tracks merge into each other. So I worked on the upper track first, or the first track. I added the Bezier curves, I fiddled around with that. And then I added to the lower track the Bezier curves with different settings. And then I added, levels, which is also an effect. And then I added invert. And then I added vertigo to the lower track. And then fade in and fade out, of course. And then, because if you're using action cameras, let's say like, I don't know how other people do it, like, in this sense, like is actually okay. Such as, you could have said, GoPro. Then you will have, if you do a 20-minute recording, okay, if you do in darkness, you're gonna have larger, but it splits the files, like the one file, into 4 gigabyte segments. So then you have 1 video actually, but you have 3, then maybe 4 gigabyte files. So you have to cut them together to upload them as 1 file. Which is why as soon as you start recording and it's more than 9 minutes, right, okay, depending on your settings, if you shoot in 4K, it's gonna be 4 or 5 minutes. To me, 1080p is enough, more than enough. Okay, and so I have 3 files, and so I have to take all these effects and filters and put them, so the first track gets the same effects and filters for all files, and then the second track gets the same filters or effects on all 3 files. In this case, it's 3. And then I simply put it together, and right then in the end you have to think about, what is the intro gonna be like? So what I wanted, and then I added mirror. Why? Because I simply wanted it to be concentric. Because it's dark anyway. Oh, and grayscale, of course. So it would only be black and white. So mirror, you always have to add mirror twice, and then you can say horizontal in the first one and vertical in the second, and then you can also invert the mirror. So I have done that for the lower track. I have the 2 different mirrors are different than on the upper track. And then I think I used grain extract as this in-between composition thing. And suddenly I had this, and I'm quite pleased with it. I added vertigo so it kind of like fades out a bit, just adds more stroboscopic stuff, I don't know. And then I was satisfied, and then I thought, well, am I really gonna wiggle out of the intro? Well, the intro, as I had done it before, bored me. And boredom is a bit like borderline, I'll stop. So I simply had to do something different. And now I've done this. And now I'm probably gonna do this very simple. Just, I have taken a screenshot from Caden Live. So you say right click on the video window and you say extract frame. And then you can work on that image in GIMP, which I do, or GIMP. And then I will add try darkness with direction in red letters. And that's gonna be the cover for the intro. And then I'm gonna put 2 tracks, or the image is gonna go twice over each other, and then either with vertigo or distort. And so my skills in everything that I'm doing, including hiking barefoot through dark forests, is an expression of I have fiddled around a lot. I have made a lot of experiences. I have tested a lot of different variations in GIMP, in Caden Live, in Audacity. I simply have started fiddling around, pushing around buttons and all these rulers or regulators. And so I have done with Darktable. You just push around stuff and then you see what's gonna come out in the end. And my walking barefoot through darkness has clearly made me more stable, so I can, if I had to, do this life thing on my own. If nobody should ever come here, and with that I mean a woman, because that's who I am trying to attract into my life, but it's only one very specific woman that I met along the way, and that's the only one I would like to attract. I just would like to keep repeating that, just to make sure. And her initials are, you know, H and L and S. So just to make sure that there is no confusion about who I'm gonna be with, and everyone else can just leave it. Because I know who this is, I know what the name is, I know how she looks like, roughly. I'm just saying, I know there's women that always want your time, but you need, and that's why I mean you need a direction, you need some kind of purpose or a goal. And you can only look for someone if you have struggled with depression for a long time, and then you meet someone and she sparks something in you. Even if she leaves, she may inspire you to simply do this. And then you can live in the hope that she will one day come back. Or you can simply say, hey, whether or not, I'm gonna do the best that I can. But you never know what's gonna happen. Because how much can I sleep? How much am I allowed to sleep? Can I allow myself to sleep? Well, sometimes I have to sleep and then I get up and then I keep working. And so I did now. I just slept, or I woke up first around 6. Cannot say I thought now I'm gonna be awake and do all kinds of things, and suddenly I was in bed and I decided I'm just gonna keep sleeping. Okay, so you do this thing. This is a hell of an intro for yourself. and you do it for others. So if you watch this video, simply listen to it, try to understand, and then ask yourself if there is an area where you could do such an experience. And then of course, if you would want to do it in bare feet, you'd probably should start small, such as just go to the park or just go somewhere and start walking barefoot, or you just do it like me and you just start and never stop. I have had moments where I had to wear shoes, but it seems to be that unless I really want to, I'll just keep going barefoot most of the time. And now I'm probably gonna keep rendering this video, go to the shops, buy some milk. I get really thirsty for milk. Crazy. Just keep drinking milk. Like sometimes I drink a whole carton of milk because I feel like if I don't drink this, I'm just gonna die. I mean, I really feel like that. Maybe it's because it's white and I'm such a baby. But I'm preparing myself for a massive hike. First I have to finish these recordings, possibly work in the garden at some point, and then continue. I think I still have the entire week. I can do this tomorrow or today's Monday. Alright, I think that's enough. Yeah. I mean, if you're still here, then I probably cannot stop you from watching this. But on the long run, you should be trying to simply face your fears. And they are very specific, right? Everyone's fear is very specific. And that's what you have to work with. Right? So, maybe mine is never seeing her again. But then you just have to face that. It's just super weird to see how my life will unfold. But let's see. Okay. Spiritual Mr. Miyagi. Right? I mean, you don't know, right, what yoga actually means to me. Right? You don't know what yoga actually means to me. At all. To me, yoga is the path of liberation. And now you can say, well, what do you mean with that? And I can say, well, how long do you know yourself? Right? How long have you spent alone trying to get to know yourself? I mean, this guy, right, that's looking at you from the other side of the screen, I mean, that's like scratching the surface. That's seeing me and then thinking, oh, he's that guy, he looks like this, he does YouTube, he does Instagram. Yeah, that's the guy that I show the world, right?
And I've shown you a bit of my shadow. I've shown you a bit of my light. And somewhere in the middle there's truth. So all my life, I have tried to be a being of light. Right? Until I realized how much I have to give. If only, right? Only if I accept my shadow. Because as long as I'm trying to some people they say I want to kill my ego. Right? Some people say I want to kill my ego. And I say, what are you talking about? You want to kill your ego? The ego must go. You know why people want to kill their ego? Because they're ashamed, my friend. They're incredibly ashamed of everything, of anything they have done. They are ashamed of their childhood trauma. They are ashamed. You have seen enough of my face to run away from yourself. I'm gonna show myself when I feel like it, but the pressure it puts onto someone if you choose to stand in the spotlight of the world is insane. The kind of nonsense people try to project onto you, that's what I call insane. How far they are willing to run away from themselves, and how every time I walk here, I have to check, right, that there's nobody there. That there's nobody here lurking in the shadows, trying to do me in. So yeah, my shadow is probably lurking around, and it's trying to engulf me and then take me back to unconsciousness. But there are times where you have to stay conscious at all costs. Let's say you meet another spirit, another being, and you realize why, what? No, I'm stuck, because I'm not sure anymore how much I can say on here after just having watched the first half of Marley and I. Right? After having watched the first half of Marley and I. So I'm not sure how much I can say on here and what people will think of me. Well, that's not so much. It's more if I talk here about other people, which I have done for a very long time, then what are other people's minds going to do with that? And can they do anything at all? Because if you don't know me, right, you think you're projecting all your anger onto me. But I'm standing beside myself, helping myself to walk through life. So I'm lurking in the shadows. If you don't get that, there's always a part of me. You never get 100% of Christopher. Nobody gets 100% of Christopher, because that's a little bit much. So if you think, right, you can torture me with your anger, then you're just shooting with empty bullets, because you're just looking at a screen. That's just an image of me, right? And then you sit there and you love me or you hate me or whatever that is. It's just a projection. And that's just an image that I left behind, because I've already moved on. I check my content regularly, right? And from the moment I recorded it and rendered it, I've already changed. Which is, if you start hating the energetic imprint that I left behind, you know, from the moment it's available on the surface of your little world, you know, which may be eons apart because time's relative. And if I am living in a different kind of time than you do, right, then your voodoo means nothing to me. But I still have to pay attention, right? Because people may try to find my lair, but my lair is somewhere else. I mean, I walk here, I constantly feel like there's shadows creeping out of the night, right? There were moments where I thought, you know, I would see someone coming out of the darkness, right? But what I realized at some point when I was walking through the darkness of the forest, that all these are, that's like maybe the shadow realm. And most people that I know, they just don't have enough light to appear right in front of someone. So what I've realized is that most people that I know, you know, that think they can do things, just think that, and all they do is just take drugs. Everyone I know that thinks they're super powerful are just addicts that use some kind of drug to imitate symptoms that we would generally connect with enlightenment. So you can take MDMA, you know, you can take LSD, but what you have to know is that this is just an imitation of something that will never be real then. Because if you keep taking substances to feel overly powerful, then what you have to understand is you're taking something and you're like getting off on it. Oh yeah, I'm super high, right? I'm super like, oh, you know, now I can have sex with my wife because now I feel super powerful. Yeah, you're draining your spirit, right? You're draining your light to feed your shadow and then to do dirty stuff. Because, right, you probably try to keep that hidden as well, that you need drugs to face your wife. I mean, what kind of a coward are you? You know, you go to your little room, oh wow. You go to your little room, then you ingest something, and then you start feeling more and more powerful, and then you go to your wife and have sex. So you've got nothing, and you go to your wife and you drain her. And then you're saying, yeah, my wife is always so empty. Yeah, because you're empty, and you're using her to make yourself feel better. And that's a fact. Like, your wife's probably in charge of the entire marriage, and you've got nothing. You could be holding planks right now while you're watching this. I mean, I'm not sure if you understand what I'm talking about, but what I'm talking about is that you have to put in the work. And okay, now I have to be honest, for many years in my life, have I, in a way, done the same thing. And now I get to this point where I say I actually don't want to continue. I don't want to continue with this recording. And the reason why I don't want to continue with this recording is because sometimes the stuff that comes out when I start talking and the things that I say are incredibly vicious, but it's still so true that, I mean, when I started on this journey, I mean, when do you really start? I mean, you've started way before you thought you started, right? You've started way before you thought you started. Way before that, you started way before you thought you started. But now you're you had some kind of realization. Maybe you took psychedelics. You had a vision. You were super high. And now you're asking yourself, what am I supposed to do? Right? What's going to happen? You know, I had a vision, and maybe you took psychedelics. Like, what kind of psychedelics? Maybe it was rapé, maybe it was something chemical, maybe it was something natural. Maybe you just meditated. And now you had this vision, and you felt some kind of bliss, and now you're asking yourself, how can I have that again? How can I do that again? How can I get that high again? Well, the answer is you may never get that high again. Because being that high is often an escape. Now imagine being that high and then, right, being a father of children, right? Just imagine being that high and being a father of children. Like, how should that work? How would you protect your wife against the spiritual and the physical if you are busy getting high? I mean, I've seen men that were stuck on psychedelics and that simply kept on ingesting psychedelics to get to a feeling that they were too lazy to work for. So what they should have been okay with is simply building up energy, holding the energy, and as soon as it gets heavy, you have to do something. Okay, I'm also stuck in a way on drinking coffee. So before I want to merge into a yoga session, right, I often say, I first need to drink a coffee or otherwise I cannot do this. Okay, it's kind of bad. But is it? Well, it's hard to say. Well, sometimes I feel like, well, so what if it helps me to work? Yes, kind of, right, if it helps you to work. But on the long run, it's probably better to stay away from coffee. Okay, what are you trying to say? I'm trying to say that if you want to have a wife that feels safe around you, to open up, right, and to really be part of this creation, to do this together, right, then you have to start taking responsibility. And you have to start reducing, at the very least, the things you take to make yourself feel better. So that's coming from the guy who's still alone, very well, but in my heart I am not. My heart space contains a couple of people, and some of them I do meet on the physical realm, but some of them also, they kind of lurk in the shadows. And I clearly have to watch out, because what I've learned is that their intent is more than vicious. What I've learned is that there are people who just cannot like you because they're full of false pride. They would like to pride themselves to be the best there is. But all they do is smoke joints or, right? They keep it all to themselves. They're really selfish. Some people are really, really selfish. And I'm just saying that because I have tested many people. And while they all acted like friends, they were screwing me, right, on the other side. And now you can say, well, what do you mean, what's the other side? There was a firefly again. Well, what's the other side? Well, it's what you see if you open your spiritual eye. It's the shadow realm. It's that which looks like it can never be real. Well, what does that mean? Well, it's kind of like what talks about this. Okay, I'm walking into the forest right now. My eyes are adapted to darkness. And I have learned that sometimes I feel that there are threats, that there are things threatening me, like shadows hunting me. But all I have to do is simply stay in the light. Plus, I don't know, I pay attention to many things. There's a lot of seemingly angry spirits, but if you stay in the middle, there's another firefly. Nice. Right? I don't know. You just have to stay in the middle. So in the end, a spirit is just a spirit. When you're angry, you may look for an outlet. And I may think your anger is directed at me, and then I go to confront you because I cannot stand your anger. But maybe it's just your anger that keeps you alive, because in that sense I am the same way. Right? I have a lot of anger, but I use that to push me through life. So I too have no friends in that sense, because I am very suspicious. I'm trying to build a life for my wife. And if you know anything about worship, then that sometimes you need to build up energy for certain things and leave other things behind. Like there are women that I have been with and that try to kind of like courtship me, but it just never worked. And if it doesn't work, then I'm just losing interest. And so at one point in my life, and I have said that already multiple times, but that's my darkness. That's what I'm working with. Every day I open my eyes, I met this woman, I just fell in love. She was carrying so much pain, and I simply fell in love with her. I wanted to somehow make her strong, right? So you can train people in your mind, and that's very true. That's what 1984 is talking about, right? What else is talking about it? Okay, this is very intense. Now you probably need some kind of faith, but I think it's okay. I'm just going to continue walking. I actually like darkness. So 1984 is talking about torture in people's minds. Stories are never just stories. That's what I've learned. But unless you really paid attention and looked at the darkness, you'll never fully understand what 1984 is about. Unless you start secluding yourself and asking yourself questions like, could life be any different? Or could life be any worse? And then suddenly you start to begin to see that, wow, the moon actually does have an impact, right? But unless you started paying attention to the fine differences in how you feel during full moon and new moon, well, how should you know, right? So you may read about things such as the full moon does this and the new moon does this. And then you carry some kind of what you call knowledge or what you call a fact. But how can you know something that you never spend enough time observing to make sure it's actually true? Because there's a lot of people who just repeat things like actors. They just learn things by heart, they read in books, and they make sure they remember it so they can say it and seem smart or wise. But true wisdom can be seen just like that. And every time I meet people, you know, in a way they hate and they love me because they can see that in certain ways I'm wise. Why am I wise? Because I simply pushed on through. Right? I said I'm choosing a wife. I chose a wife. And everything I have done is in a way devoted to her. It's also devoted to nature and to life itself. But I have said that if I'll never see her again, then it has to be enough knowing that she exists and that we met, and then I'm just going to continue. So what try darkness means is that if you want to raise a child with a woman, that it takes more than a penis, right? That you just have to jab into her. And that in a world that lives from extracting spirits, right, and breaking children to use them until they die from old age, that you have to start taking responsibility for who you are. Well, what does that mean? Well, it's very simple. You've been broken. They screwed up your mind. You're screwed. I mean, you have been tortured. This is what this existence in a way is about. You've been tortured all your life to keep you from seeing what is happening, and that you actually allowed the torture. And there are some of us that break under the pressure for whatever reason, and then there are some of us who stand up and who say, you know what, I get it. You know, it's about the mind, it's about the will. Well, what if I realized that I can rebuild myself, get strong again, if I start retreating from this sick society, this sick hive, and start remerging into nature? And I just say, hey, I'm just gonna devote my life to consciousness, because this ignorance is really annoying, right? This ignorance means, oh yeah, I can just have random sex. Yeah? Well, if you look at certain women that are out there prowling around, looking for men to just, right, attract them into their lair, and then they just suck them dry till the end of their lives, right? They just have them, you know, just impregnate me, you know, and then I can use the system to squeeze your energy out of you, and I'm just going to torment you for the rest of my life. You know, I know these kinds of women. I was lucky in that sense, because in a way I always managed to escape. And there have been women that just wanted to take my light because they hated me for it. So, I mean, if you see a woman and she's sparkling at you, then you have to ask yourself, you know, is that a challenge? If you have the mentality of a warrior, then you have to ask yourself, which woman to you is the greatest challenge? But not in the sense that which one is the hardest to get, but more like which woman is inspiring you the most to lead a life full of wonder and to heal your inner child and to never break this bond, but to simply say, hey, I mean, she reached out to me because maybe she wants children. And if I say, okay, I'm in, then you as a man have the responsibility of seeing to it that she gets what she wants. And this is how you as a man show that you are true. Now, a lot of men are not true. And a lot of men, they start, and then suddenly someone's pregnant, and then they feel stuck and imprisoned and all that kind of stuff, and they always think about cheating and fucking around. But how can you do that to the woman that gave you children? Well, a lot of men feel like that the children were just a trap, They stole my freedom. And this is how I have been raised, in a sense. And I simply said, I never want to repeat that. Right? I'm going to choose my wife. If I'll never see her again, I'm just saying, then what's going to happen? Well, then I simply maybe wasn't good enough. Or maybe I was self-selected to just do this on my own. But in that way, I have tried to find what she wants in a man, because I want her very much to feel complete, because we are the same in a sense. So try darkness means you have to look at your pit, at your devil's hole, and then you have to face it. And this is what opening the box of Pandora is about. And this is what takes a lot of devotion. And this is what yoga is about. And this is why Estas Tonne plays such wonderful music. Because he learned to channel energy with such adequacy that he can silence a room full of people. Now, this takes a lot of patience, a lot of devotion, a lot of honing of skills, a lot of paying attention to the fine differences of the spiritual world, which in a sense make no sense. But this is a bit like Harry Dresden, right? I mean, your cave is like a dungeon, and what's on the other side? Well, that's very hard to say, right? What's on the other side? Well, best case scenario, you've been putting up wards, and this is not something where I have to say a lot of things, All the paintings that you see on my walls are kind of like imprints into the fabric of reality to remind me what I have chosen, what I came here to do. But it's not so much only what I came here to do, it's what I chose to do at a certain point of my life, where I said, I'm going to devote myself to this woman and to nature. And then I'm simply going to figure out my way through this. And I realized that there are beings out there, or people, who try to act like there's something else. I'm just saying. There are beings or people out there who can mimic other people so well that you may get deluded into thinking, well, he has what I want. And then you have to constantly align yourself. Wait, but I wanted to be with my wife, and I wanted to have children and this kind of family. And then suddenly you're in the park starting to drink alcohol. What are you doing all? What are you doing? Right? Why is everyone trying to get me away from my goal? Why is everyone trying to get me to cheat on the woman that I chose? Right? Is this, are they part of the challenge? Are they my enemies? Or are they my friends for testing me? I mean, you see what I'm saying? Do I have to be this suspicious? Well, I started to develop certain skills that basically can never be talked about. Because if you know too much about certain things, then, well, what's gonna happen? Well, you're never alone. You're never completely alone in your mind. Well, you can be. You can learn certain ways to shut out people, and I have done that. And some people are really strong, like they have strong minds or strong wills or strong powers. But usually these people are high on drugs, and that's the only time where they can really do this. Right? But if this energy just flows into you because you're just strong, then that's a completely different story. That's a completely different story to, I just want to get high all the time, and that's why I take MDMA. I'm just saying, that's just you. I have been there, but never like this. I have tried certain things, but I realized at some stage that all of this is not it, right? That all of this was never it. So I've been already looking for a woman ever since I came here. And when I found her, I realized, wow, this is so nice. But then I was still stuck on all these psychedelics. And I simply realized at one point, well, it's better to just be psychedelic yourself. Just stop taking all of these things and just devote yourself to yoga, to the path, to just walking it, like actually walking it, and then seeing where you land. But it's as simple as it sounds. You just have to keep going. You simply have to open your eyes and learn everything there is to learn. You have to say, I want to learn. But this will take, you need a new mind. And to get a new mind means you have to let go of all the bits and pieces that made you start hate life. All the concepts, all the ideas, all the images that are stuck in your mind. You have to let go of that. And in order to walk, if I were somewhere in Africa, or if I were somewhere in South America, or somewhere where I knew there's giant predators or something, I would never walk around like this. I live under the assumption that there's nothing here that can hurt me. But if I was in the Amazonian rainforest, you can count on it, I wouldn't walk around this cheerfully in the middle of the night holding a camera and talking, because I don't know. are animals that could just take you, or so I think. But it's hard to say, right? Maybe it is possible to do these things if you have faith that you're gonna make it out alive. And that every time you think you're gonna die, you simply transcend it, right? And just keep on walking. So, but yeah, that's hard to say. I feel like I have enough troubles in my life without going looking for them. I'm already struggling as it is to walk my path and to continue. I have days where I cannot get out of bed, where I'm so heavy that I feel like only eating sugar can get me to move on. Right? I have days where I feel like dead or numb or whatever, and I'm struggling to keep rendering these videos. And the question is, why is that so? Why do I have to feel all this pressure that makes me want to relieve myself and masturbate? Why do I have to feel all of this insecurity? Well, because that's the first level of creation. That's what they call the root chakra. That's where, in a sense, we all start, right? But let's imagine the Amazonian rainforest. There's times of darkness, there's times of light. But there's a constant struggle for survival. There's a constant battle for space. And if you are a little sapling, then there's plants that will slash you. And there's plants that will, right, cut you down. So in a way, you can see yourself as a little bug or as a little frog, or simply as a little sapling trying to survive. Well, in a sense, what I'm doing is representing exactly that. I'm struggling for survival. I feel like a little sapling. I'm not a grown tree yet, but I'm working to be one. But all around me, a lot of the big trees are being harvested, which you could say makes it easier for me to grow and thrive, because now a lot of space has been cleared. But at the same time, it's also incredibly hard. Okay, it's hard. I say it's hard. Yeah, it's still a struggle for survival. But because I had help from others, also, clearly, have I had help? Well, you can blame that on me, or you can be grateful. Because I think I have turned into a big fat tree that can shower you with lots of apples, lots of fruits, with lots of content. And I have learned to walk through darkness and come out into the light, which is what you may call modern shamanism. But there is no such thing as modern, there's just shamanism, which means you walk into the darkness, you come out into the light, and that is also yoga. So try darkness if you're struggling against your depression, then you have to start working with it, right? And if I would walk here and suddenly I'd hear like maybe a wolf growling at me, then I probably did something very wrong. And then better luck next time. Right? So at any moment now, a tree could fall onto me a complete maniac may jump out of the shadows and take my life. You know, somebody I met along the way that still holds a grudge, right, may attack me, but I have a strong feeling that this will never happen. Because I think I know a lot more than you think I do. I'm a lot older than I look like. Because time is relative. And you're flashing me your ID with a number on it? Time is relative, my friend. Like, I'm never 35, you know? Because spirit knows no age. Spirit just knows I'm full, I'm empty, right? I'm full, I'm empty. I keep flowing. I keep giving, I keep creating. If you try to attract me into your life and I do not come, and then you start getting angry, then I know you're out of balance. That you just want me to make your life easier because you're struggling against the darkness. You should stop struggling against it and start spending time in it. So that, hello darkness, my old friend, finally begins to make sense. Because if you're too much in the light, which as a content creator or someone who just has a lot of light, then you need darkness to survive. You need to have your cave. And my advice to anyone who's feeling drawn to guiding people to move on and to get to know themselves better is you just get to know yourself and then you talk about that journey. I would suggest to people to never read smart books. I just read novels. I read novels because I feel like the guy who wrote Dune was clearly a genius, and he not only had many realizations, he also knew how to turn it into something else. Which is why, to my experience, the only people I can learn from are the ones that are highly creative and that are visionaries, that can see what is happening and that can give life to things. So to me, Freud's psychotherapy thing or psychoanalysis, this is like not even close to having understood something. This is just being stuck at trying to understand it. But from that point, we kind of build onto it, but not really. Because people who read Freud, they think they know things, you know. Okay, you think you've understood this? You know, I'm going to take you, I'm going to throw you into nature at night, and you'll not know where you are, and you have to find your way back home. If you can do that without a torch, without a flashlight, then I know you understood it. But if you start like scrambling about, screaming, you know, looking for light, then I know you have no idea how to get back. Right? And that's all I can tell you. So Try Darkness says, just try it. Just turn off all the lights in your apartment and just sit yourself without a blanket into the middle of your room. Maybe curl your arms around your knees and just see what's going to happen. Just see what's going to happen and just listen to whatever you hear and just feel whatever you feel and then start observing this. Never scream, never run, right? Just say nothing. Just sit there, listen and observe. And then feel your way back into the light. And at some point it's gonna be there. I mean, I have done this many times already. That I simply sat through the night and waited. But at some point you also do get tired. So at some point you feel like it's over, the struggle is over, you're back in the light, you know, all the voices recited, you did what you felt like you had to do, and then it's just over. And then you have made one step to accepting your shadow, and you have learned to sit through the darkness and get back into the light. And until that becomes like nice, right? Or normal to be light and shadow at all times. You know, when the darkness is no longer heavy, then you know. I mean, then you know. But then whatever you do with the insights that you are being given is your thing. But people will read it, people will look at it, and it may take them decades to understand it. I mean, the first wave of people that read The Lord of the Rings may have had no perception of all about that this is actually life. The industrial life, that's the industrialization, that's The Lord of the Rings in a nutshell, right? So orcs are just people today. But if you show this video to people in 1,000 years and everybody's purified and whole and healthy and everybody's like Thor, right? Like true spirits, then what would you see there? Well, what I can see is that there's always darkness and there's always light, which means that there's always some kind of industry, there's always some kind of an upheaval, there's always some kind of thing going on. And I have learned that sometimes I spend 3 days alone in my apartment, right, in flight mode, making art, being in this kind of meditation, and then I leave the house, something has changed. Well, I got used to it by now. And time's relative, so if I slow down time in my space, right, time's still rushing about outside of my space. And for that you clearly have to get rid of this idea that you can actually run out of time. I mean, time is relative. So what's the hurry? Well, I still feel like I'm hurrying forward because I'm eager to get to the point where I can spend time with my wife. But I also have to see that I cannot do more than I'm already doing. You know, I spend most of my time alone. I say I just want my life to be clean so that when I should get together with my wife, which my life will then show me, then I know I'm ready. So there cannot be a dog in my life, because a dog would keep me from spending time with my wife, which I find important. So there cannot be weird habits in my life, like you have to get rid of masturbation and porn, which I believe I have managed now, but I have said that before. So I simply can look at my actions. And sometimes in my mind, it may look like I'm gonna, masturbate and watch porn. But then I look at the reality and I'm just not doing it. And this is what you then say, karma running off. I'm working off my old karma. My old karma is my bullshit. Is my darkness, is what I have to face. I can keep repeating it to act like, it's nice, but it's not nice. It's atrocious to watch porn and masturbate. And I feel like I simply have to make that choice for the woman that I love. As scary as it sounds like to be together and have children, to me, as a man, this is the greatest challenge and the nicest thing I could ever face, to know, right, that I managed to finally open up to a woman and to invite her into my space that in a way we have created together for this exact moment. And believe it or not, for years and years and years I have tried to run away from this feeling that I had, right, what I can do. And it took me many years to get to know myself. And in that sense, I had to spend time with other people and realize that we're different. And realize that, right, there are differences. And I can see that now. But it took me some time. It took me quite a while to realize this. It took me a really long time to realize that there are people whose intentions are completely different. There are people who are a bit more like animal-like, but I don't mean animal-like, I mean there are people who are more like, they're not like animals in that sense. They're just less nice. I don't see why I should take other people's energy without giving something back. But I have met many people who just took my energy without caring, right? They just let me come to them without telling me. And then they just took my energy, and in the end I stood there with empty hands. So I kept going back to people that acted like they were my friends, and I kept channeling for them, and I kept doing this incredibly good work that I'm able to do. And then they maybe gave me $100, and that was it. So in that sense, they kept me on a leash, right? Flashing me around, hey, look at that guy, look at who I caught. He just keeps coming back. Yeah, until I stopped. So we all, you can hold hands with anyone. You can hold hands with, guys. You can hold hands with your parents. But you can also hold hands with your wife. And then you can build something for yourself. And then you can stop fooling around. You can stop playing around. And you can start doing this seriously. You can play seriously. You can play chess in a serious way, and you can also learn chess to get better at life. So I play chess in my mind. So I also have to realize that, who's the queen, who's the king? Why is the king only sitting around? Am I some kind of a sultan? And why is the queen able to move long distances and the king cannot? This should be equal. The king and the queen should have the same abilities, right? They should hold hands and do this together. They should connect their minds and then choose together. This is what makes sense, right? This is what keeps the kingdom alive, the kingdom of heaven, right? is ruled by men and women alike. So the kingdom of heaven is in a way also just whitewashing life. Because there is not just the kingdom of heaven. There is not just heaven, because there is also a hell. And what I've learned is that you can create your own heaven, but it's going to be very lonely. Because there's no contrast anymore. So sometimes I just leave this kind of place that you can call your personal heaven, that you've created for yourself, and then I just go back into life. And that's where many people struggle against, right? Yes, you can learn about meditation, you can learn about consciousness, you can learn about mind, you can learn about many things. But ultimately the question is, how bad did you want to live? And I said, I want to live. I want to go hiking, I want to be in nature. But during times like this, you first have to create space that you can populate, which means you have to build up energy, flush it all out there, preserve, continue to look for strength, but look for strength in yourself. You're the one who has to stabilize your dream. Your dream is your vision, is your mission, and mine just needed a woman. And when I had that woman, I just said, I'm just going to continue. And now I simply wish for her to join me, but I cannot force it. You know, she has to come in and out of herself. And if that never happens, then I simply have to make sure that I'm gonna die a happy man that gave birth to lots of children in the form of books. And then I'm just gonna keep worshiping the love that I feel for this woman. And that's just a devotion. So just be prepared to keep going without getting anything back for a very long time. And that's coming from the guy who's been going nuts on the internet year after year after year and still only had 37, 36 followers on Instagram the last time he checked. And that's all I can say to that, right? So if you're dealing with a shadow, with darkness, then people will wait until they're certain that you will continue to guide them. That you're actually true, that you can maintain a constant flow of content, and that you actually have something to give, and that you're not just some kind of a psychedelic nutter. So you have to take the experiences you've had until a certain point, and then start doing something with that. Express yourself in the most honest way that you can find. I can just say, this is my life, and I'm living it. So you have to start participating in your life. See who you left behind. Look at the relationships that you feel like you have to pick up on. Your parents are very important. Your parents are your foundation. But you also have to look at yourself. So never give your parents more than you have to. But help them if you can. Right? See them regularly. Because they're the only parents you ever have. And you want to know that when they go, you did what you can to help them to ultimately let go. And that's the greatest challenge, to face that, right? Because also, to fall in love with your wife or your husband always means you have to prepare yourself to also let go again. So get to know yourself. Know you could do it alone if you had to. You know, this life thing. And then when you get together with your spouse, right, it's gonna somehow work out. Because you can give stability, you know how to heal yourself, so you can heal also your partner, right? You learn to give yourself stability, so you can give stability to the woman that you will call your wife, and then you will have children, and you can help her through this. A lot of women are really struggling these days because men are just lazy assholes that just sit around smoking and think their woman has to do everything. And I'm the guy who just does the dishes, you know? I'm the guy who makes sure that his woman is okay. But a woman should also pay a bit attention to her husband. You know, this should be like, we appreciate each other. We are here also for each other, but also a bit for ourselves. So I'm trying to be the best version of myself that I can be, and you're doing that for yourself. But it's possible that you're the strong one, because you're looking at this. You're the one who wants to grow. So maybe you have to grow, and then you just help your partner to do this with you. Maybe you're the one that exploiting the depth of yoga, and then your partner just likes to join in, right? Maybe to your partner, it's just doing breath holds, or maybe it's just holding planks, but maybe to you, right, you're seeing the entire universe. I mean, I don't know what my wife would see. I don't know what other people see. You may just hold planks. I'm just saying that again, right? Or maybe your partner is not just holding planks. You know, maybe your partner is seeing the entire universe, right? So, right? That's it.